Live from the KDAL studios at Lake and Superior Street in downtown Duluth, it stars Over the Prairie with 8-time Minnesota Music Award winner Paul Metsa.
And I wish I could see stars over the prairie, stars over the prairie tonight.
Featuring cool people from all walks of life. Check out previous show podcasts at KDAL610.com. The phone lines are open at 218-722-0839. Now, here's Paul Metsa.
And I wish I could see stars over the prairie, stars over the prairie tonight.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Stars Over the Prairie. This is Paul Metsa. I got my wingman, Chris Allen, in today. We're both a couple of musicians playing fools. We'll talk a little bit about where we were this week, rocking the Twin Ports. We got a great show today on Stars Over the Prairie. What do we do on Stars Over the Prairie? We interview stars, people that used to be stars, people that want to be stars, people that want nothing to do with being stars, people that just go outside, crack a cold one, and look at the stars at night. We're broadcasting from KDAL Studios, 237 somersaults down the hill from Bob Dylan's childhood home, and yet but a stone throw away from Bob Dylan's way here in beautiful downtown Duluth. It's kind of a cloudy day, but it's warm, and we can deal with it. Twin Ports is hopping today, and we've got some great guests on. First up, we're going to be talking to Randy Lee, the founder of the Big Time Jazz Orchestra. Although he's not playing with the band today, they will be playing at the Rhubarb Festival. That is a fundraiser for Chum, a great organization in town that helps homeless people find places to live, gets people in need food and more. And the festival is taking place from right now until 3 p.m. at the location is the Asbury United Methodist Church in West Duluth, my part of town. That's 6822 Grand Avenue. So first up, we're going to be talking to musician Randy Lee. In the second part of the first hour, we have Duluth native R.T. Lund, who's a prolific author and former lawyer. Don't hold that against him. I just read a great book of him called The Ghost. We're going to be talking about that. It's a murder mystery taking place from Duluth, Kitchigami Club to Ely with a little bit of the North Shore and two harbors thrown in. RT will tell us more about that. I got introduced to him by a good friend of mine named Kevin Daly, who runs a great booking agency, musical booking agency called North Star Artists. Kevin interned for me in 1986. He booked me, my band, the Paul Metsa Group, for an end-of-the-year bash for his high school. It was outdoors at Minnehaha Falls. And he went on and worked with me for a year, including a great trip to the Fontainebleau Hotel, Christopher, where we were at I think it was Performance Magazine, had a conclave. We stayed on the 15th floor of the Fontainebleau. You know, that was the big hotel in Miami Beach.
Yeah.
And we stayed on the floor right next to the Bee Gees room. But that's where Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack used to hang out. The big pool, great bar. Kevin went on to work for Monterey Peninsula Artists. First, he started his own company called Proton Productions, went out to California for a few years and worked. And now he's got a phenomenal booking agency. He books, among others, Chris Allen, Ace Frehley from KISS.
Nice.
Yeah. Take 10% off 4 gigs of that, and you and I would never have to work for the rest of the year.
I was just thinking that, too.
Kevin's done really well for himself, runs it with his wife and a couple other folks. But he turned me on to R.T. Lund. And in the second hour, we have two dear and old friends of mine. Jeff Cerniak, a wonderful guitar player. Jeff is playing with his Jeff Cerniak's Triptet at Carmony's Irish Pub at 308 East Superior Street. They played last night, and they're also playing tonight from 8:30 to 10:30. Really, I caught the first part of the show. I'm going to catch more of the show tonight. And Tommy Griffith, his rhythm guitar player, is a Duluth native and also a very near and dear friend of mine who booked my band, Cats Under the Stars, a near impossible job back in the early 80s, but he kept us on the road and booked at a legendary gig for us called the South Dakota School of the Mines. We refer to it as the South Dakota School of the Mimes, which is a school you don't want to go to. But anyway, like we do every week here on Stars Over the Prairie, we like to talk about famous people that were born on this day. You don't get any more famous than Henry VIII. He was born in London in 1491, died in 1547, but before that is the King of England. He separated the Church of England from the Roman Catholic Church.
And didn't he write that song, too? I'm Henry VIII.
Yeah, he wrote that, and he performed with Herman's Hermits for a while. Actually, one of our guests from a few months ago, Greg Enhofer, played with Peter Noon, who is the singer in Herman's Hermits.
Yeah.
I think his band was called the Tremblers, among other things.
I think you're right. I got to meet him when I lived in Baton Rouge. I talked with Peter Noon, went out to dinner with him.
Is he, he looks like he's a tiny guy. Is he a small guy?
He is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't going to say anything, but yes, he is. He is not very tall.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, you can still hear that song on the radio, so he's still making his mailbox
making
money.
a ton of money, yeah.
Hey, another theologian, John Wesley, was born today in Epworth, England, 1703. He was passed away in 1751. He was the Christian theologian and co-founder of the Methodist movement. I can tell the people out there in the listening audience today, I am a lapsed Methodist. I get to church on Christmas and Easter, but I enjoy my time as being a Methodist. People go, what's it like being a Methodist? I go, it's like being a Catholic without the guilt, and you don't have to sit and get up as many times during the service. Also, great American theatrical composer Richard Rodgers, who with his partner Rodgers and Hammerstein created such shows as Oklahoma, South Pacific, The King and I, and The Sound of Music. He was born in New York City in 1902, lived to be 77 years old, passed away in 1979. Chris, you'll love this. Who doesn't love Mel Brooks?
Oh, incredible. 2013, my favorite bit that he's ever done.
He turns 99 years old today.
No.
Still sharp as a tack if you catch him on any YouTube clips.
He's doing another Spaceballs.
I've never seen that one. That's kind of your generation. Did you dig that movie?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's totally makes fun of Star Wars, but at the same time brings the Jewish factor into it. It's hysterical.
He's a true man. She's an actor, comedian, and songwriter, and he was the guy that created the television show Get Smart.
Yeah.
And, of course, the 2,000-year-old man that he did with Carl Reiner.
The best. One of the best bits ever.
Ever. And really was at the beginning of there was a whole thing in the late 50s, certainly in the 60s, comedy records. Mm-hmm. My mother and father had... there was a guy named Woody Woodward, but I think Woody worked blue a little bit. But anyway, they liked to listen to those when they had their cocktail parties. And there was nothing better than an Elder and Bess Metsa cocktail party in the 1960s on the south side of Virginia. You knew when the friends were coming over to party with Mom and Dad that the kids had that evening off.
And usually probably pizza or something, right? Some kind of fun food? Because they were like, yeah, we got to get them...
Well, they'd feed us, but my mom always put out a nice display of snacks for my dad loved his Manhattans, as did my mother. And but let's get back to Mel Brooks here for a sec, not the drinking strategy of the Metsa family, which I've carried on prolifically over the years. Blazing Saddles, of course.
Oh,
Who doesn't love that? Young Frankenstein. And then the producers, a phenomenal play that just blew up on Broadway, turned it into a movie. And he is a member of what they call the EGOT Club, which means, Chris, he's won an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony.
Yeah. There's very few in that club. But
very few.
That's amazing that I didn't know that he won all of them. I knew about the Grammy. I knew about some of them, but I didn't know he had all of them.
What an amazingly talented man. Also, we would be remiss if we didn't mention that the great comedian Gilda Radner was born today, and we lost her much too soon.
There's a great Saturday Night Live movie on Netflix that you should check out.
What's it called?
It's I think it's just called Saturday Night Live, and it goes through the very first show on the air and what it took to get it on the air.
Yeah.
Not only was it a struggle to get a show on the air, but once they got to that night, there's drinking and whatnot.
Right.
And it was a struggle, but they were able to get it. Lorne Michaels put it together and got it on the air.
I remember when I first saw that show. There was nothing like that on television at the time.
Yeah.
Now, you did have related really some really great comedic television with, you had eventually Boys in the Hall from Canada, SCTV, which I absolutely love.
Great show. I have an old videotape of some of those shows.
Oh, I'd love to. I've got an old video. I got some VHS tapes, and I need the VHS player that I had is out, but you can get those for $25 at Goodwill. I got to borrow some of those from you.
Yeah.
Hey, if you are a Cancer and you were born today, June 28th, here's your horoscope. While you enjoy a good debate and tend to bounce ideas off other people frequently, ultimately, you make your own choices and do your own thing. You come alive in partnerships and perhaps ironically find yourself as an individual more readily if you are partnered. But you do need personal space, and who the hell doesn't, huh, Chris?
I agree.
You are very perceptive, wise, and a natural leader. While you can be dominant and willful, sometimes you're also an expert at seeing both sides of any situation. So if it's your birthday today, happy, happy, happy birthday. First up, we're going to be talking to a great musician named Randy Lee. We're going to listen to a little music by the Big Time Jazz Orchestra, the orchestra he founded, and then we're going to be talking to Randy and find out more about he and the Big Time Jazz Orchestra. That was a little bit about the Big Time Jazz Orchestra, although the rest of the big timers hadn't chimed in yet. But we want to save time to talk to the founder of the band, Randy Lee. He's an incredible musician with a great resume. He has a Bachelor of Music in Music Ed, a minor in Jazz Studies from the University of Minnesota Duluth, Master of Science degree from UWS. And he has played with in various configurations in orchestras and backed such people as the Mills Brothers, Wayne Newton, Lee Konitz, and Randy Brecker, to name but a few. His band, the Big Time Jazz Orchestra, is playing this afternoon for the Rhubarb Festival, the fundraiser for Chum. But I'm anxious to talk to Randy. Randy's not with the band today, but he founded it, so we're going to find out how he had the idea and how he tracked down the great musicians to play with him. Randy, do we got you on the line?
Yes. Good morning, Paul.
Randy, so I was able to check out the history of the Big Time Jazz Orchestra and your incredible resume. Let's talk a little bit about how a young Randy got interested in music, and when did you start to play, and where did you start to do that?
I'm a Minnesota guy through and through, and I I was born in central Minnesota, spent some early time in Minneapolis, and actually started band on trumpet in 5th grade. But then it's kind of funny because the reason I'm in Duluth is Clyde Ironworks, because my stepdad was an engineer, and American Hoist and Derrick closed up in the Twin Cities, and he grabbed a job in Duluth, of all places, and it's Clyde Ironworks. And in 1971 moved up here and then attended Ordine and East, and I dove into music. My stepdad had played saxophone, and I then picked up saxophone and enjoyed it, and had a great friend. A lot of people know Brad Bombardier, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but we were just super tight all through, and had a spirit of competition and friendship, and just played and played, and was an all-state band, and met my wife, Mary, who's an awesome musician and a co-founder of the Big Time Jazz Orchestra, by the way. And then went on into UMD and music education, and just always wanted to stay close to music, and then sharing it is a great thing, and teaching, and taught in McGregor, and then came to Hermantown for 32 years. I got my master's early in that time from UWS, and it's just, I can't imagine any other life I would have had. It's just been a great ride, and I'm still enjoy playing music.
What year did you graduate from Ordine East?
The old East on 40th, the old East, which is Hawthorne and 4th Street, I was a 78 grad.
Okay. Because we have a guitar player on who's playing tonight at Carmody's named Tommy Griffith, 73 Duluth East grad. And, of course, when I was a kid, Randy, I grew up in Virginia, Minnesota on the Iron Range, and both my mother and father were big music fans. My mother was a great singer, and she went to Bemidji High School, but she sang in high school bands and really turned me on to, of course, she had back, if you had parents in the 60s, they had all that great, like we were talking about Rodgers and Hammerstein, they had the soundtracks to South Pacific, and all those great Broadway shows. But they would come down to Duluth quite a bit before I was old enough to go to the clubs just to hear music, because they had so many great musicians playing at a lot of the supper clubs in town. And then of course we would go to the deck. I remember I saw the Preservation Hall Jazz Band, and I said, man, I just love, that's one of the first time I really heard a band improvise like that. And I said, yeah, man, there is some real energy there. When you were playing in high school, did you play in any rock bands at the time, or was it primarily high school orchestras and jazz bands? I played mostly in all high school bands, the jazz ensemble and marching and all kinds of stuff. That was a great experience at Duluth East under Bill Tormanson there. But we started to mess around. We screwed around with other musicians, and we'd make up tunes and horrible lyrics and have fun and record it. And, I mean, that's, I didn't really start gigging by then, of course. Didn't get into that till college. In college I started to gig. Right. What types of music were you listening to?
I was a big fan, just like you mentioned. You know what? As a young guy, and I bet this would be interesting to find out if you have older sisters and brothers, right? I'm sure most people get into the music of that. So I was into Dylan and John Denver. I love all those, and Peter, Paul, and Mary. Believe it or not, I have a lot of folk influence. Joan Baez.
Oh yeah.
But was getting into the Beatles. Late. I was born in 1960, but I wasn't aware of them really till I was, getting a little older, into almost middle school age. So. Loved the Beatles for the rest of my life, all my life. But it was then starting to get into symphonic music. I had a wonderful instructor who I also taught with at Hermantown for years. Keith Swanson is such an influence, and I had a musical styles course at East that he taught that just broadened everything out. It was amazing to be opened up to everything from Renaissance motets and sacred music to all the way through opera, and I bought my first opera album, La Bohème, way back when I was a sophomore. So really broad. I love all kinds of music, really. I really like jazz a lot and perform that the most, but I'm really, our collection is country to anything, some great rock, and I'm more of aware of, the history of jazz and classical, I guess, than my own American popular music, but I'm certainly a fan of all that. I've played it as well.
When I lived in Minneapolis, which I did for 40 years, when I moved down in 77 and 78, man, I was like a kid in the candy store. I would go to Orchestra Hall to hear Andre Segovia, Bill Monroe, and Doc Watson. And then there was a great club that was still around. It was originally on 28th and Nicollet called the Artist Quarter. When you were down, did you ever catch any gigs there? They eventually ended up.
Just a couple times.
Yeah, but I saw Lee Konitz there. I saw that you had performed with Lee, and but I saw, man, it would go there. But the club, maybe the listing room was maybe 60 people, and the bar, beautiful Horseshoe Bar, maybe 40 in the other room. I saw Randy. I saw Jay McShann. I saw Joe Pass, Tal Farlow, Charlie Bird. And just to see those types of jazz musicians in a club, because that's where jazz came out of. It came out of whorehouses and clubs, right? I mean, that's
it is true.
And but to be able to go see that firsthand in Minneapolis, of course, you could see any real style of music you wanted. Did you ever get a chance to check out Ted Unseth's Wolverine Jazz Orchestra in Minneapolis?
It's funny, I just grabbed a few CDs from a friend the other day of the Wolverine. Yep, I know of the Wolverine band, great influence. Man, my brother took me to, you'd like this, Paul, a young Leo Kottke was coming through Minneapolis, probably 1970, and my brother took me. I was just a little tyke, but big influence. Yeah, it was just so cool to hear that and see that. But it's we get the talent through Duluth sometimes, but the Twin Cities is such a mecca, really.
I just saw Leo at the North Shore a few weeks ago. I went to a show, Randy, and you know this how. And I'd like to, I'm going to ask you this question after I tell my story about the show that, those shows that really inspired you to become a professional musician and keep you going. But I saw Leo Kottke. I've been turned on to him about a year or two before. I've been playing fingerstyle guitar, folk guitar, and somebody turned me on to Leo Kottke. We went down to see Leo at the Guthrie Theater. In December of 1973, drove through about a 5-hour snowstorm from the Iron Range, but got to the Guthrie with the phenomenal acoustics. He did the first set acoustic, and then the second set, he brought out Bill Berg on drums and Billy Peterson on bass. But I was so struck by the power of that performance, the magic of the lighting, the pristine acoustics, and, of course, Leo's great artistry. That was the night I was in 11th grade. I walked out of there, Randy, and said, this is what I'm going to do for my life. I'm going to become a professional musician. From Leo Kottke at the Guthrie Theater. Tell us about some shows at any point in your life that you can remember when you're sitting around with some of your jazz buddies having a beer on the patio, kicking it, and you go, man, you should have seen this one. Tell us about a couple of your favorite shows.
Oh, sure. Well, yeah, I mean, we're jazz nerds, right? And it's and being of my age now, so it would have been the 70s that bands were coming through Duluth. I mean, that's what, and it would be, I saw, the Count Basie band, an amazing band in such history, and, led that band for 50 years. They came to the prom, you may remember, in Minneapolis on University Avenue.
Yep.
Let's see, and then in our area, I saw Buddy Rich band.
Wow,
which is amazing. And of course, as band nerds, you almost know players like a sports fan knows, the shortstop on a baseball team, right?
Correct.
It's just, and Woody Herman band. I think that might be because I was a junior and I was, becoming a more capable player, and I was into jazz. It's funny to look back and how little I probably knew, but you're just trying and you're getting excited. Woody Herman came to, of all places, Hermantown, which of course he joked, thanks for naming your town after me. He actually said it, and it was in the old middle school gym, which I ended up teaching in for, my 32 years. It's pretty funny.
Perfect.
And had an all-star band, and it was just so stunning to hear that level of players. It's just such a new level, and as you mentioned, the improvisation is such an amazing skill to develop, and it's a difficult thing to spontaneously create new melodies and harmonies, right? It's just something else. So I was way hooked and working on it. And then even though I didn't get a jazz degree, I got a jazz studies minor, but I was working on my degree, my music education degree. I just always was a jazz head. But yeah, those are the performances that come to mind. I'm probably missing something, Paul, but those big bands with their great players.
Well, let's tell us. You know what? I've really been amazed, Randy, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, and of course help chum out with because the band you started, the Big Time Jazz Orchestra, is playing this afternoon at the Chum Festival, the Methodist Church over there at 6822 Grand. But when did you? I've been amazed. I saw, what is it called? The Blue Moon Orchestra. I saw them up at the Shriners space a couple months ago. But there is like at least 3 big bands that I'm aware of besides the high school and college bands that are playing semi-regularly in the Twin Ports. So tell us, how did you come up with the idea of creating the Big Time Jazz Orchestra?
Yeah, it was, well, I can tell you, it's just all the playing with great players around here in the 70s, 80s. And then near the end of the 80s, I don't know if you recall, Dr. George Hitt had taught at UMD and had run a big band, and was a fine musician and a demanding leader, and I was privileged to be in his group. And he kind of semi-retired. He said, I'm going to slow down at that time. And then I was almost 30 years old, and I had been teaching. I was getting my master's. It was crazy to start at that time, but a bunch of us just, looked around and said, hey, there's kind of a void here. And Mary and I, my wife, who's a fine saxophonist, we decided we should start a big band and get all the finest players in the area. And I really I wanted it to sound like the Woody Herman Band and the Count Basie. I had big wishes, and we would rehearse and try to present what we would call artistic concerts. It wasn't meant to be a dance band necessarily, but we certainly had some events where we did that. But we were, that was 1989. I was forming the band with Mary helping out, and then by 1990 we would start rehearsing, and we had our first performance. And actually, it was for Chum organizations that we performed for. We did benefits, and I'm proud to say we've done like 110 benefits in these 36 years or something.
Wow, good for you.
35. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty amazing when you have to, and it's hard to lead 19 people, as you know, just to schedule 19 people.
Oh, yeah.
And these are the best around. These are your Duluth Superior Symphony Orchestra members. These are the people in the pit orchestra for the North Shore and Playhouse. These are the active church players. These are the high school jazz teachers and the college jazz teachers. So it's just around. I always say it's the finest big band players in our upper, Minnesota region. We've had people coming from Chisholm. I don't know if you know Chet Johnson up there is a longtime member.
I know
he
the
was
name,
a band teacher. And then as far like Webster, Wisconsin, we've had members from kind of coming a ways, but mostly built around the Twin Ports, Duluth Superior for sure, including composers and arrangers. We just had such great folks, so many people over the years, and I had decided to give up leadership in the last year and a half here, and we've actually got a full band performance August 14th, by the way, Paul. But to get back to Chum, then we've done fundraisers for Chum many times over the decades, and then this coming the performance today is actually by there's some of the members of Big Time. Actually, not a big band. It'll be like a quintet playing today. It's funny. I actually have another gig that I'm playing in Barnum this afternoon for just a private thing. And I didn't had booked that before I knew that Chum needed me. And I know Gracia Swenson has organized this, and I've played for it several times.
Well, good for
I'm
you.
always happy to do so.
We just got a few. When is the gig on August 14th? Where's that?
It is 6 to 7:30 at the public library, in which, we've done many times over the years, and it's a great free event. And the nice thing there, even if it's raining, you're protected down there, and it's kind of a cool setting. We like it. And all kinds of people show up and on bikes and everything. And it'll be Rich Mowers, who's a fine musician and is the ESCO band director, but a fine jazz player, and has Northern Water gigs Smokehouse every Thursday night. He's leading us right now, and a variety of people will be leading us, and we just keep rehearsing and trying to share great music.
Randy, you have an open invitation. I'm a folk and blues guy, but I do know some jazz standards, and
sure.
I would love to invite you to and Mary, bring your horns down. I play at Carmody's Irish Pub every Friday from 5:30 to 7:30, and I'm sure we could find a few songs we could swing on together.
Oh, well, yeah, you're at Carmody's. Okay, got it.
Every Friday from 5:30 to 7:30. Randy, I look forward to meeting you. You seem like a wonderful guy and a great musician. Have a wonderful weekend, and thanks for the info.
You bet. Thanks so much. Take care.
Okay, you too, brother.
You're invited to the Great Lakes Candy Kitchen, open for another season for all your candy pleasure. They're located on Scenic Highway 61, 10 miles north of Duluth in Knife River. They're third and fourth generation candy makers using traditional copper kettles to make their caramels, fudge brittles, and chocolate-dipped hot air. When you visit Great Lakes Candy Kitchen, be sure and try their famous Nutty Ice Cream Bar. Tell them you heard it on Stars Over the Prairie. Great Lakes Candy Kitchen, located just 10 miles north of Duluth in Knife River.
I'm Lucas, and I had Z-LASIK at Weiss Eye Center. Went great. Little to no pain yesterday. Surgery went great. Everything else went home, took a nap, woke up, and haven't really had any pain since. Everybody was super nice and talked you through every step of the way, and I barely had to ask any questions because they knew what to say. They filled it all in. For me, it'll just be snowmobiling's my big one. I try to do a lot of riding in the winter. I farm in the summer, so this year was a big difference where a couple of times I had to borrow somebody's helmet, so I put my glasses on and ride because just the weather conditions, everything else, out there riding blind. So I'm really excited for that. It's well worth the money, and it's going to change my life for a long time, I'll tell you that.
Weiss Eye Center is the only clinic to offer blade-free Z-LASIK in the Northland. To find out more and to arrange your free consultation, call 218-625-1917 today or visit weisseyecenter.com for more information. Weiss Eye Center. See the best.
Chum's 20th Annual Rhubarb Festival is taking place on Saturday, June 28th. Through all things rhubarb, the Rhubarb Festival raises money for Chum and its services, supporting people in Duluth who are experiencing homelessness. This includes rhubarb refreshments, such as pies, ice cream, burritos, and brats, music and entertainment, and rhubarb-themed activities for the whole family to enjoy. The festival is from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. on June 28th at Asbury United Methodist Church in West Duluth. For more information, please visit Chum's website at chumduluth.org/rhubarb.
Gray Wolf Lodge, located on gorgeous Pelican Lake in beautiful Orr, is the great getaway in northern Minnesota. Featuring affordable, modernized cabins that rent by the week or even a few days, Gray Wolf Lodge is your place to treat the family or just yourself for a relaxing time away from it all. With great fishing, yoga classes, massage, boat rentals, a sandy beach, a common gathering area with a fire pit, and the gorgeous and rustic Gray Wolf Lodge, hosts John and Carol have thought of everything for your unforgettable stay. Give them a call at 1-800-840-9653 or go to graywolflodge.com to see all that they have to offer. Gray Wolf Lodge, your home away from home in the North Woods.
If you're looking for a great hang in downtown Duluth, I highly suggest Carmody's Irish Pub. They're located at 308 East Superior Street, open Tuesday through Sunday. The host and hostess are Eddie and Liz. Eddie is a retired Chicago cop. If he happens to be in the club when you're there, talk to him. He's got more stories than I do. They've also got a great jam session every Tuesday night from 8 to 11 with Bruce Woodman. So if you're a musician, tried and true, that has been out there playing and just want to go try out some new stuff, go down and hang out with Bruce and the crew. Or if you're just up and coming, bring your horn or your stringed instrument or just want to sing. Go sit in with Bruce Woodman every Tuesday night at Carmody's Pub, 308 East Superior Street.
River City Records and Books, voted Best Record Store of 2023 in the Twin Ports by the Duluth Reader, has in stock thousands of new and used vinyl records, from classic rock to punk, grunge and metal to hip-hop, rap, and jazz, reggae, and dub. Thousands of books, CDs, DVDs, Blu-ray, and VHS. Also a large selection of cassettes, comic books, and music magazines. Stop in and see them at 1814 West Superior Street in the friendly Lincoln Park Craft District. Open 9 to 7, 7 days a week.
Every day deserves a superior beer. Earth Rider Brewery's decorated brewers hand-select hops that lend citrus notes to the crisp and easy-drinking Superior Pale Ale. Visit Earth Rider Brewery's Cedar Lounge Tap Room on the Working Harbor in Superior for their award-winning flagship and seasonal brews on tap and to go. To find out much more about Earth Rider Brewery events, join the mailing list and locate Earth Rider Beer near you at earthrider.beer. Hold fast.
Hey, yo, how's she going? Don't you know, this is Steve Solkola, and you're listening to Stars Over the Prairie with Paul Metsa, 610 AM, 103.9 FM on KDAL.
Thank you, Steve. That's the pride of Palo, Steve Solkola there with that great little accordion music and bumper. You're back in tune with Stars of the Prairie. This is your host, Paul Metsa, with my wingman, Chris Allen. Coming up in the second hour, we're going to check in with Jake. Paul Metsa and the Tiltown Titanettes are playing tomorrow at 1 o'clock at the Park Point Art Fair. That's starting actually today, so we're going to check in with Jake on site. After that, we're going to talk to my old buddy, Nelson French. He's got a great lineup of music up at Silver Bay in the park, so we're going to preview that. And then live in the studio, we're going to have Jeff Cerniak, guitarist, with second guitarist Tommy Griffith. But right now, we have an author, a guy by the name of R.T. Lund. He grew up near the shores of Lake Superior. His writing is informed by a variety of mishaps and experiences, including jobs as a lawyer, judge, and corporate executive. And his love of northeastern Minnesota, a graduate of Hamilton College in upstate New York. He's got a degree in English literature. He now lives in a suburb of the Twin Cities with his wife, Ann, and his golden doodle, Charlie. He wrote a great book that my buddy Kevin Daly turned me on to called The Ghost. It's part of a murder trilogy that takes place in the wild environs of Duluth, Ely, Two Harbors, and more. And we chatted just a little bit, but he's going to read a little bit from one of his books today, I believe, The Ghost, and more. But we're going to talk to R.T. Lund about growing up in Duluth and how he became just such a wonderful murder mystery writer, among other things. Mr. Lund, how are you this morning?
I'm great. How are you?
Very good, very good. We're having a good time. Tilt Town is popping. When was your years in Duluth, R.T.?
What was I didn't get that. What was that?
When was your time in Duluth? When did you spend time up here?
Oh, well, I grew up in Duluth from 1954 until the mid-'70s.
Okay.
So quite a while ago, but I visit very frequently. My mom lived up in Duluth until about a year and a half ago. I had to bring her down here, but she's in her 90s. And she was in the same house near UMD in Duluth for 70 years.
Wow. That's a beautiful thing. Archie, when did you start getting interested in literature and then becoming a writer yourself? I imagine a guy like you, a lawyer, judge, all that, you're a smart guy, and you've probably done a lot of reading over the years. But when did the whole concept of RT, I'm going to become a writer myself. When did that start? When was that germinating in your head?
Well, as you say, I've been a voracious reader all my life, and really love to read thrillers, especially those about the Midwest and Minnesota, whether John Sanford, William Kent Kruger, a lot of the local authors, and always had the itch to do it myself, but I was just too busy with life and work, and so I didn't really start writing until the day I retired from my job as a CEO down here. I was in my 60s and thought I'd give it a try. The first book I wrote I wrote in 3 weeks and just put up on Amazon.
Wow.
And, it was pretty raw. I regret not editing more because I've learned that to be a good writer, editing is probably as important as the writing itself.
Mm-hmm.
But so it was something that I had deferred for years and years. I kind of regret it, but you got life, work, and kids, and
Sure.
Writing was on the back burner.
I'm amazed at how many writers actually live in Duluth and write in a variety of styles. But when our buddy Kevin Daly told me about you, and he sent me a copy of your book, The Ghost, it would just so happens, of course, without giving anything away, one of the first victims, and we won't get too far into to give it away, but was the sous chef at the Kitchigami Club. Well, just the week I started that book, I met a guy who was a chef at the Kitchigami. He actually met his wife that he just married 2 weeks ago at my gig. I was playing that time at Sundays at Carmody's Irish Pub downtown, but it was just kind of just a crazy happenstance and circumstance, but I loved the book. It was one of those that, I would read it every night until it was done. Tell us a little bit about The Ghost and the murder trilogy you're working on. I think people are going to, especially anybody that's spent any time in the Twin Ports, Ely, two harbors of the North Shore, are going to love the book, especially if they love murder mysteries. But tell us about how that idea came to you, R.T. Lund.
So I've always been fascinated by Lake Superior, and I think you refer to something that was in one of my bios about the Helverson brothers back in the '60s who died. They were dancing, basically trying to escape high waves in a terrible northeastern storm in April of 1967. And the three brothers in high school, they were neighbors of ours, and one of them got pulled in by a wave, and then of course the other two tried to jump in and save them. And this is a horrible northeastern storm, and the waves were 15, 20 feet high, going over the pier, the North Pier. And these guys, they were never found, and in fact, a Coast Guard diver died trying to find them that night.
Sad.
I would go down that lake a lot, go to Park Point, and there was always something about it that kind of scared me, something sublime about it. So when I started writing mysteries, I thought, you know what, I'm going to write a trilogy where Lake Superior is basically a character in every one of these books. It's going to have a big role in every book because I think that the lake is so important in every way up in life on the North Shore, and I've spent a lot of time cross country skiing, winter camping, just hiking up on the Superior Hiking Trail. I just love it up there. So I wanted to incorporate both the Twin Cities, where I've lived most of my life, and Duluth, where I grew up. And so, the first book, Who Are You, in the trilogy, that involves this Lincoln Barnes, who's kind of one of the main characters of my books. And she starts out in Chicago, is a detective in Minneapolis, gets disillusioned by working down here, investigates the murder of a city council president here, and ultimately finds her way up to the North Shore because she gets involved with a judge who comes from Two Harbors, Minnesota. And anyway, the story kind of migrates from the Twin Cities up to Lake County and Two Harbors, and as you mentioned, Duluth and Ely are also prominent in it because the mining industry up there is part of the book. And so, the story migrates in the second book, in The Ghost. It all takes place up in Lake County, and I'm just finishing the third book in the trilogy, which is going to be called Avenging the Dead, and
Wow.
that should be out later. That should be out later this fall. I think I told you I kind of regretted that there was a 2-year period between the first book, Who Are You, in 2022, and The Ghost in 2024. Because I had to deal with a kind of a personal tragedy in there, and it delayed my writing. But this third book is going to be coming out within a year of The Ghost, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Archie, do you have something you could read for us today?
I do. You mentioned you mentioned the sous chef, and I think these days when people can download samples of books without buying them, you got to hook people early on your book if you want them to read it. So I'm going to read not the prologue, but the first chapter of The Ghost.
I want to give a shout out to Patrick, who married Julia. They might be listening this morning. He was the chef at the Kitchigami. But anyway, RT
okay,
Lon.
well, and I will tell you before I do this, I do want to give a shout out before I forget.
Yeah.
You mentioned Tommy Griffith.
Yeah.
Tommy Griffith and I not only went to high school together in the same class, but we also he went to Hamilton College with me.
Really?
And so, I've heard him with a couple of different trios playing the guitar. So a shout out to Carmody's Irish Pub and Tommy Griffith. I think he's playing there tonight.
He's playing there tonight at 8:30, and he's going to be actually in the studio here in about 15 minutes. What a small world. It is a small world. My favorite Bob Dylan line from It's All Over Now, Baby Blues. Take what you have gathered from coincidence.
That's exactly right.
All right, let's read something, RT. I'm anxious to hear the reading voice of the great author, RT Bob
All right,
Lund.
this is from Chapter 1 of The Ghost. It was Thursday, so Oscar made sure the kitchen was pristine before leaving a few minutes before midnight. His aging Jetta looked abandoned in the empty lot across 9th Avenue. Though he'd shed a white polyester uniform in favor of cargo shorts and a T-shirt, he was already drenched in sweat after the short walk from the iconic Kitchigami Club to his car. Folding his slender 6-foot frame into the driver's seat, he started the engine, set the AC on max, and lifted his iPhone from the side pocket. He selected the best of K.D. Lang from his Spotify playlist to accompany the 70-minute drive to his mother's bungalow in Silver Bay. Oscar had lived in Duluth most of his life and couldn't remember a hotter summer. His boyfriend, Jared, had a condo on Minnesota Point with an outdoor pool and a patio overlooking the harbor. That's where he wanted to go, but Jared was spending the next 3 days at a fundraising event for his boss, the DFL candidate for the 8th District congressional seat, at a resort in Grand Rapids. No matter. Oscar had promised his mom he'd spend a few days at her place. It was his legal residence, even though he lived at Jared's 90% of the time. As he turned right from Superior Street onto London Road, the wind suddenly picked up, and a sideways rain pattering against his windshield. A major storm was brewing. Oscar hated the job at the Kitchie, sous chef. After 2 years of culinary art school in the cities and 3 years on the job, he was part dishwasher, part custodian, part fry cook, and part bartender, but no part chef. His 50-something boss was a control freak and a homophobe, but none of that would matter in a few weeks. That's when he'd be finalizing the lease on Oscar's Fish House, the restaurant he'd be opening in Canal Park. That's also when he'd be coming into a small fortune. By the time he reached Two Harbors, a barrage of rain and pea-sized hail pelted the Jetta from the west, accompanied by random booms of thunder and flashes of lightning that lit up the sky over the lake, creating a surreal scene that reminded Oscar of an old black-and-white horror film he'd watched with Jared. He considered pulling into the holiday station on the north end of town to wait out the storm, but it was already late, and he'd be home in 30 minutes. Rapidly closing high beams in his rearview mirror made him flinch. He was approaching the Stewart River Bridge when an old pickup crossed into the lane of opposing traffic and started to pass him in the no-passing zone over the bridge. "What the hell?" Oscar screamed when the oncoming headlights of a van, distorted by the rain, interfered with his view as the rumbling old truck struggled to overtake the Jetta and was certain to cause a head-on crash. The truck nosed ahead at the precise moment both vehicles cleared the bridge, while the driver of the van sat on his horn and steered to the shoulder to avoid a catastrophe. Then, to Oscar's horror, the truck abruptly turned into the Jetta at a 45-degree angle, hitting the driver's side fender and pushing the smaller vehicle through the narrow, rain-slicked parking lot for Kelsey's Beach just east of the bridge. By the time Oscar comprehended what was happening, he had lost control of his car and his fate. There was no guardrail, no fencing, no barrier between the south end of the parking lot and a 30-foot drop onto the rocky shore of Lake Superior. Unfortunately for Oscar, the Jetta flipped over and smashed into the rocks, roof first. His helpless torso was crushed in seconds like a grape in a wine press, and then a 10-foot wave combined with a massive riptide to suck the car's remnants into the blackness of the lake. Oscar had no chance. Amidst the fear, shock, pain, and anguish, he had one final conscious thought.
Wow, that was an amazing reading. Did you do an audiobook of The Ghost?
I did not. In fact, but we're working on it, and I hope to have that out at the same time that the final chapter, the final installment of the trilogy comes out.
Wow. So how many books do you have? Number one, tell us how we can track down the writings of R.T. Lund. What is your website?
My website is rtlundauthor.com, but all the books are available on Amazon as well. And I know they're in Fitkers. I don't know if all my books. I know the trilogy books are in Fitkers and I think Zenith, but and they're all available at any bookstore website as well.
This is fantastic. So how many books do you have in your catalog of R.T. Lund's writings?
Right. I have 4 books, working on the 5th. So there's the trilogy, and then the first book was called Treachery. If you read that book, there's a lot of characters in that book. It's hard to keep track. I think lawyers actually tend to like the book. A lot of people get lost in it. That was the one I wrote in 3 weeks. So I'm just giving you a little disclaimer on that one. It might be a little tough to follow, but the other ones I would highly recommend.
I actually had a little series of notes when I was reading The Ghost because number one, I'm not that smart, but number two, there's a lot of moving parts and places and things, but it's just a really I highly recommend it. Do you get up now that your mother's down in Minneapolis? Do you get up to Duluth much to hang out?
I try to get up there 3 or 4 times a year to Duluth, and then I go up the North Shore. Love it all the way up to all the way up to Thunder Bay. But I've been to Isle Royale a few times. Been hiking up there. I love it. I'd love to live up there, but I'm not the only one making those decisions. So.
Hey, RT, I got to ask you real quick. We just have not less than a minute left. What are you currently reading?
What am I reading? I'm reading a book called Broken Country by Claire. What's her last name? I can't remember, but Broken Country, excellent book. I recently read All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whitaker. Highly recommend that book. So those are the 2 books that I've been reading right now.
I will give your regards to Tommy Griffith. He's probably right at the studio door now. RT, I look to meet you in person. Give my best to Kevin Daly, a good old friend of mine when you talk to him. Have a beautiful weekend, and I'm looking forward to jumping into the next book.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
I wish I could see stars over the prairie tonight. And I wish I could see stars over the prairie tonight. And I wish I could see stars over the prairie.
Live. It's Stars Over the Prairie with 8-time Minnesota Music Award-winning songwriter, musician, author, and historian, Paul Metsa. Check out previous show podcasts at kdal610.com. Now, here's Paul Metsa.
Welcome back to the Stars Over the Prairie radio show on the Big K, KDAL 610 AM 103.9 FM. We've got a lot of machismo in the studio today. We're going to be speaking with Jeff Cerniak and Tommy Griffith in a little bit. But first, we're going to check in with Jake Kavsner. He's running the show at the Park Point Art Fair, which is going on as we speak. Music and art. Paul Metsa, the Tilt Town Titanets, will be performing tomorrow at 1 o'clock. along with several other great musicians from the Twin Ports. But right now, we're going to check in with Jake Kavsner and see what is going on at the Park Point Art Fair, of course, on Park Point. We got Jake. Hey, Jake, what's going on? How's the weather's working out for you?
That it is. I was paying close attention to the KDAL weather report there on the air, and it's looking good at the moment. It's beautiful. No precipitation.
So, how many artists are displaying their work and have their stuff for sale?
Well, the Park Point Art Fair features over 100 visual and fine artists. Yeah. There's like about 8 different categories that people are juried into. About half of these folks have been at the art fair before, and about half of them are new. You'd find people doing, two-dimensional painting, drawing. You got a lot of ceramicists doing pottery, fiber art, clothing, jewelers, photography, sculpture, woodwork, glasswork, and some mixed media.
And who are the musicians playing today and tomorrow?
Well, we have today and tomorrow. Right now, Russ Sackett is playing from 11 to 1, then followed by Hannah Ray at 2:30 to 4, 30 to 2:30. And then we got Watercat performing at 2:30 to 4 today. And tomorrow, we got a bluegrass band called the Has-Beens who are opening at 11 to 12:30. Then we are honored to have you at 1 to 2 p.m. on Sunday, followed by Mississippi Mike Wolf from 2:30 to 4.
Very cool. Jake, how long have you been working with the folks at the Park Point Art Fair?
Well, Paul, it's funny you should ask. I think it's been exactly 20 years.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah, I have been a volunteer. I live in Park Point, grew up a bit down here. And my wife, Carla, she is the coordinator of the event, and I am just her dedicated volunteer partner. And I'm part of a committee that from the Park Point Community Club, which presents this event every year. And we have a core group of a dozen committed volunteers, as well as many dozens of other people who come together from the community and off of Park Point who, just love supporting local art. I mean, people who come here to show and sell their work are, really independent artists, small businesses. And just as we love to have independent, local music like yourself, it's the visual and art and the musicians that come together here. It's really an expression of our community event, and it's kind of a throwback in some senses because it's still, hosted by this local community group, and some of the proceeds that the group comes up with, they use it traditionally to support children's programs and environmental efforts like preserving the ecology on this peninsula of Park Point. So.
Well, and you have, like you said, a lot of committed volunteers, committed artists, and probably a lot of artists that should be committed.
This is true.
Hey, it's small world today. So we've got a great sound guy that turned me on to Jake, Mike Solon, who does the sound for me over at Carmody's Irish Pub every Friday from 5:30 to 7:30. Turns out he grew up next door to my guest, who we're going to have on a little bit, Jeff Cerniak in South Minneapolis. And the guy that I just had, the author R.T. Lundon, went to school with my other guest, Tommy Griffith, is here. And you used to go see me way back in the day at down in the cities when I was playing. And last night when I was playing, my neighbor who lives across the street, a guy by the name of Mike, turns out his dad was an old friend of mine and was excited to know that his son lives next to Metsa. So anyway, all worlds are colliding here on Stars Over the Prairie. But Jake, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and I encourage anybody to get out there and buy some art, go listen to some music, and have a good time with Jake and all the 100 artists at the Park Point Art Fair. Jake, thanks for taking time. Get back to work.
Hey, I will. Thanks so much, Paul. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Let's go ahead and take a break, and we'll have our next guest on.
Yeah, we got to talk to Nelson French, too, and see what's going on in Silver Bay. And then we'll be with Jeff Cerniak and Tommy Griffith, two cool, groovy cats, happen to be very good friends of mine.
Chum's 20th Annual Rhubarb Festival is taking place on Saturday, June 28th. Through all things rhubarb, the Rhubarb Festival raises money for Chum and its services, supporting people in Duluth who are experiencing homelessness. This includes rhubarb refreshments, such as pies, ice cream, burritos, and brats. Music and entertainment and rhubarb-themed activities for the whole family to enjoy. The festival is from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. on June 28th at Asbury United Methodist Church in West Duluth. For more information, please visit Chum's website at chumduluth.org/rhubarb.
Gray Wolf Lodge, located on gorgeous Pelican Lake in beautiful Orr, is the great getaway in northern Minnesota. Featuring affordable, modernized cabins that rent by the week or even a few days, Gray Wolf Lodge is your place to treat the family or just yourself for a relaxing time away from it all. With great fishing, yoga classes, massage, boat rentals, a sandy beach, a common gathering area with a fire pit, and the gorgeous and rustic Gray Wolf Lodge, hosts John and Carol have thought of everything for your unforgettable stay. Give them a call at 1-800-840-9653 or go to graywolflodge.com to see all that they have to offer. Gray Wolf Lodge, your home away from home in the North Woods.
If you're looking for a great hang in downtown Duluth, I highly suggest Carmody's Irish Pub. They're located at 308 East Superior Street, open Tuesday through Sunday. The host and hostess are Eddie and Liz. Eddie is a retired Chicago cop. If he happens to be in the club when you're there, talk to him. He's got more stories than I do. They've also got a great jam session every Tuesday night from 8 to 11 with Bruce Woodman. So if you're a musician, tried and true, that has been out there playing and just want to go try out some new stuff, go down and hang out with Bruce and the crew. Or if you're just up and coming, bring your horn or your stringed instrument or just want to sing. Go sit in with Bruce Woodman every Tuesday night at Carmody's Pub, 308 East Superior Street.
I'm Zach, and I had Z LASIK at Weiss Eye Center. I was sick of wearing glasses. I've had glasses since third grade. Dealing with the nuisance of glasses has kind of reached that point of I just need to get LASIK. I was a little nervous, but knowing now what that process all entailed, I wouldn't have been nervous if I knew. Everybody's really nice here. Not a bad thing to say about anybody. Everybody's happy, and everybody here's nice. And I mean, it's day one post-op, and I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Weiss Eye Center is the only clinic to offer blade-free Z LASIK in the Northland. To find out more and to arrange your free consultation, call 218-625-1917 today or visit weisseyecenter.com for more information. Weiss Eye Center. See the best.
Hey, it's Curly from the Salty Dogs, and you're listening to Stars Over the Prairie with Paul Metsa.
Welcome back to Stars Over the Prairie. This is Paul Metsa, and before we get to the featured guests today, Jeff Cerniak and Tommy Griffith, who are playing tonight with the Jeff Cerniak Triptet at Carmody's Irish Pub, starting at 8:30. That's 308 East Superior Street. We're going to check in with one of the prime movers in the art and music scene in Silver Bay, my old buddy, Mr. Nelson French. He's going to give us a little preview of the Music in the Park series taking place in Silver Bay. Nelson, did you get your sauna and cold plunge in this morning?
No, but we're doing it later today.
Okay.
Greetings, Paul. We're taking sauna about 3 or 4 times a week, and it's the best thing for these aching joints.
Okay, I know you're not Finnish. It's pronounced sauna.
Sauna.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, next time, let's get it together now.
All right.
Okay.
And you're invited up for sauna.
Oh, I can't wait. All right. Hey, tell us about the great music series you've got going up in Silver Bay this summer.
Hey, man, we're entering our 5th year, if you can believe it. 5 years now producing shows. We've had over 12,800 attendees over the last 4 years, and we've got a real knock-it-out-the-park season this year. Starting on July 18th, we got Charlie Parr opening up our 5th season, and we're thrilled to have him coming up, and he's thrilled to be here, too. I'm sure he's going to be wearing his Rocky Taconite T-shirt when he comes.
Yep.
Then on July 25th, we've got Jeff Slate coming out from New York. He's bringing the band from New York City, coming all the way to Silver Bay to play. And, Paul, you know Jeff. You've worked with him. You've played with him in New York, I think, haven't you?
Well, I played with him at Sacred Heart. I've had him on my radio show. He's also a really amazing writer, man. The guy has interviewed everybody from Bob Dylan to Pete Townsend and more. He writes for Esquire.com, but he's also written in Rolling Stone and the New York Times. And, it's an incredibly talented guy and a good songwriter and guitarist and singer.
Just a really nice guy and very well connected, and we're going to have a great time with him. And 6 out of our 8 shows this year have associated house concerts. So the artists stay a second night and help us raise money to fund this habit of bringing bands to town. So Jeff will be playing a house concert on Saturday the 26th. And the following week, we've got our buddy Stan Kipper coming up with New Primitives.
Stan's the best. I just talked to him this week. I love that guy. They're the New Primitives. Are the Minnesota's equivalent to the Neville Brothers?
Yeah, I mean, these guys are going to be great, and we're really excited. And, Stan's been wanting to come up for years, so we're glad to be able to include them in the mix this year. And they're playing a house concert as well on the 2nd of August. Then the following Thursday, Martin Zeller and his son are going to play a duo house concert on Thursday night, followed by a free outdoor concert in downtown Silver Bay on the City Center Park stage, Martin Zeller and the Hardways on Friday, the 8th of August. Then we got Chase and Ovation coming up just for a one Friday night gig. Chase and Ovation is a Prince tribute band, and I think the Silver Bay team is excited about that happening in town. And then on August 22nd, we've got your old buddy Sherwin Linton and Pam Linton.
Oh, yeah, the Johnny Cash of the Midwest.
Johnny Cash of the Midwest coming to town with the Cotton Kings. And, boy, Silver Bay has really been hunting for some country music, so Sherwin's going to provide us a great night. And also, on my 49th anniversary, August 21st, he's going to be playing the house concert as well. So we thank them for that. Then on Friday, August 29th, we've got Tina Schlesky. Tina and the B-Sides are coming up. And, man, I'm getting ready to hear that. Have you heard them recently, Paul? Or I know you.
No, I haven't, but I sold Tina a guitar several years ago, my Gibson Hummingbird, and
nice.
Through Molly Mayer. Molly Mayer kind of helped when she was working at Willie's Guitar, sent it out to Tina. Yeah. And but I haven't heard. No, I take it back. A couple of weeks ago, she played I think at the Turf Club with a bunch of great women, and I saw a clip of it. Yeah, I've been hip to Tina for years. She came of age in the Caboose back when I was playing with Cats and the Stars and the Paul Metsa group, who my guest Jeff Cerniak played with. So yeah, I've been hip to Tina for years. Love her to death. Yeah,
we're excited, and I know she's excited about coming up to the North Shore. And then and they'll be doing a house concert on the 30th of August as well. And then we're closing off the season with our dear friend Scarlett Rivera, who is coming out to play with her buddy and your buddy, Chris Mulkey. So the Chris Mulkey Blues Band is coming out with Scarlett, and they're going to shake us down for the final show of the year on Friday, the 5th of September. And, of course, she'll be playing a house concert on that Saturday as well. And Chris's wife, Dana Sparks Mulkey, is coming too. And, Paul, it was at that show at the Blackwater Lounge that Chris shared with me that he and Scarlett played together in L.A. all the time, and that's what launched this idea to get them up here. So that's our summer season. The Friday concerts are free, outdoor concerts on a covered stage this year, and the Saturday night house concerts are ticketed events. You can get tickets. Go to RockyWallEntertainment.org. Look under events, and you'll find your way to the ticket sales and more information on all the concerts.
That's phenomenal. Nelson, keep it up. Give my best to Marilyn and my buddy Gino and Amy up there. And I gotta make it up for a show or two. But the new Prims, I'm putting that one on my calendar. I'd love to see the Prims outside. That's going to rock.
Yeah, and come on up for the house concert, too. We're going to have a grand old time. So thanks much for doing your show. We love your show, and we'll look forward to seeing lots of folks in Silver Bay this summer for becoming a music destination on the North Shore.
All right. Thanks to you, Nelson. Have a great weekend.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, let's go ahead and take another break, and we'll bring Jeff on.
And Tom.
Yeah, and Tom.
Jeff and Tom.
All right. You're invited to the Great Lakes Candy Kitchen, open for another season for all your candy pleasure. They're located on Scenic Highway 61, 10 miles north of Duluth in Knife River. They're third and fourth generation candy makers using traditional copper kettles to make their caramels, fudge brittles, and chocolate-dipped hot air. When you visit Great Lakes Candy Kitchen, be sure and try their famous Nutty Ice Cream Bar. Tell them you heard it on Stars Over the Prairie. Great Lakes Candy Kitchen, located just 10 miles north of Duluth in Knife River.
River City Records and Books, voted Best Record Store of 2023 in the Twin Ports by the Duluth Reader, has in stock thousands of new and used vinyl records, from classic rock to punk, grunge, and metal, to hip-hop, rap, and jazz, reggae, and dub. Thousands of books, CDs, DVDs, Blu-ray, and VHS. Also a large selection of cassettes, comic books, and music magazines. Stop in and see them at 1814 West Superior Street in the friendly Lincoln Park Craft District. Open 9 to 7, 7 days a week.
Every day deserves a superior beer. Earth Rider Brewery's decorated brewers hand-select hops that lend citrus notes to the crisp and easy-drinking Superior Pale Ale. Visit Earth Rider Brewery's Cedar Lounge Tap Room on the Working Harbor in Superior for their award-winning flagship and seasonal brews on tap and to go. To find out much more about Earth Rider Brewery events, join the mailing list and locate Earth Rider Beer near you at earthrider.beer. Hold fast.
Hi, this is Liberace with my good friend Liza Minnelli.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, I didn't see you there. You can listen to us on Stars Over the Prairie with Paul Metsa on KDAL.
That is Love Goat by my guest, Jeff Cerniak. He brought along with him Tommy Griffith, his second guitar player. They're playing tonight with the Jeff Cerniak Triptet at Carmony's Irish Pub, 308 East Superior Street. Was that, Jeff? Good to see you both, by the way. Jeff and I played together for years. I met Jeff and through our mutual friend who we just lost, Steve Baker, and I don't know, about 77, 78, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and then And then you played with the Cats and the Stars for a handful of years and the Paul Metsa group, and you and I have hung out a lot, and we could tell a lot of stories, but this is a family operation. So we've got to keep it. We can't work blue on Stars Over the Prairie. Was that Steve Fine playing drums on that?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, well, let's give a shout out to Steve.
Yeah, Steve, another person that passed. I played with him for many, many years. Twin Cities musician, drummer. Very good.
And who else was on that recording?
That was G.R. Svendal on bass,
who's playing tonight.
Playing tonight with me, and Rob Hillstrom on the piano.
Now, Jeff, you've had a storied career. You've had, of course, the legendary hot pork sandwich.
Legendary.
And you have one of the records for tickets sold at the Caboose Bar.
That's right.
Back in the early 1920s, I believe, and or 80s.
90s.
It was in the 90s?
90s, 92.
Not 1920s.
Not 19.
Oh, I got to check
You
my
better
notes. We're just having some fun with Jeff. Jeff, but you went out to San Francisco and you hung out and did some gigs with Vince Welnick, who played in one of the later versions of the actual Grateful Dead when Jerry Garcia was still alive.
Yeah, I had somebody shop me to Vince, and so we had met at First Avenue, and he was going to hire me then, but he said, well, what happens if it doesn't work out? He's got a wife, and we have to put him up, and it's very expensive to be in California. So we just put it on the back burner. And
here's the pitch. Minnesota Twins baseball.
It's gone. It's a grand slam for...
God. Well, I don't know what the hell's...
Chris, have you been drinking, doing early morning day drinking?
It's not me. The programmer put in a hard sink and it just fired on its own.
Well, that's because of my rap is so powerful. Anyway, Bob Weir got a hold of me. He had heard some of my stuff, and so my wife and I took off to California. And
the lovely Molly.
The lovely Molly, very lovely. 33 years, no kids. We lived like a couple teenagers. Yeah. Very nice. And so anyway, Vince, when he heard I was out there, instantly hired me. And we spent a lot of time together, 8 months in the studio, 40 hours a week working on music.
Wow. How many gigs did you end up doing with him?
Not many, just a couple.
Wow.
The motivation for a lot of these people is not that strong.
Right.
And so,
because the weed is
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so it just got to be a little frustrating, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, it worked out just fine. It was all good. It was a good experience. And but you know, you got to make your decisions. And honestly, I'd rather hang out in the woods with my wife than hang out with a bunch of men.
Yeah.
Traveling and doing all that. So,
but you also, part of that, a lot of, and, I think a lot of guitar players our age, if they play electric guitar, there's no way you're not influenced by Jerry Garcia, because he was one of the finest electric rock and roll guitar players of all time. And you could certainly hear it when you hear you play, or myself as well. But you also kind of participated in that whole Garcia universe. You did some time with Melvin Seals bands.
I did 2 tours with Melvin Seals and JGB and
the Jerry Garcia Band.
Jerry Garcia Band, and I did that in 2004 and 5, and then I took off and went around the world again.
Now, who's the cat's name? What did he play in, the Space Heaters or the Jones Gang?
Stu Allen.
Yeah,
I got Stu Allen the gig in the Garcia.
Right.
Yeah. That.
Tell that story.
Well, we were doing the second tour, and I get a call like 2 days before we're leaving, an 18-day tour, Rocky Mountain tour, and Melvin says the bass player can't make it.
Right.
And 48 hours to go, and I said, well, the only way I can bail this tour out is I'll play bass.
Right.
And I know this guy, which I didn't really know Stu, but I knew that that was his bag. And so I called him, and he was in heaven. That was his dream come true. My dream come true was not playing in a tribute band. And so it worked out fine for him, and I went on to do other things.
And then he went on, played for a long time on and off with Phil Lesh.
He played with Phil, played with a lot of things out in that Bay Area. He's still out there and doing things, That's it.
Speaking about playing with your heroes, Tommy Griffith, how does it feel to be playing with the great Jeff Cerniak?
It feels pretty good. It's pretty darn fun, I must say. He's got the book, gave us all the book, and there are 3 others who know it, and we're playing together for the first time at Carmody's last night.
Now, Tommy, when did you start? Because you and I have known each other for a long time. In fact, you booked Cats Under the Stars at the South Dakota School of the Mimes.
Didn't go as planned, and
there's never a Cats gig that did.
It was before Google Maps, so the band didn't quite make the gig as planned.
Yeah,
but
well, there was that happy hour at Mettler's Strip Club in Mankato. The night, we don't have to get into it. You know, the Cats just are celebrating our 50th anniversary this year, and the 3 founding members, myself, John Pasternacki, and Duluth native Tim O'Keefe, played and went in without a sound check, a rehearsal, or a set list, and pulled it off. There you go. Now, Tommy, you grew up in Duluth, I believe Duluth East grad, 1973. Were you playing guitar back in high school?
I was mostly playing hockey.
Okay.
But playing guitar on the side and
what position in hockey?
I was center.
Okay, of course.
We played against the Carlson brothers.
Yeah,
back
Virginia,
then. Who went on to make the great movie Slapshot.
Yeah. Well, Steve was class of 73.
That's right.
And I ended up.
And Tom's past hockey experience comes into very good use on these gigs. Yes.
Does he blocking solos?
Yeah, exactly.
I scrap in the corners.
Little board check.
Yes.
So when did you guys start playing together?
We got together years ago, and Jeff gave me his book of tunes, and then he left the country.
Yeah.
Left me with these tunes. I looked at them, played them, then he came back, and we got together a few years ago, and then last year we got together quite often. We started gigging almost exactly a year ago, June 25th, in Ely. We had our first gig with Andy on percussion.
Yeah.
So a lot of water under the bridge since then. A lot of improvement, I think.
And I'll have to say that in my whole life, Tom is the only guitarist, the one and only, that wanted to learn my material.
Mm-hmm.
I've usually used piano players instead, and I've had several of those that have gone through the work, but never a guitarist. So it's really a treat for us to play together.
Well, and Jeff, you come from a musical family. Your father was a very accomplished cello player, yeah.
Yeah, and my mother a pianist, yeah.
Yeah, and your dad, of course, left the earth too soon. But your mother is still with us, Joanne. How old is she now?
95.
And she just published a book.
400-page novel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you in there at all under an assumed name?
No, I'm not, actually. Not in this one.
But
no.
It's set in Duluth.
Yeah, it's set in Duluth, that
really?
book. Yeah.
She was, I believe, good friends with her former mayor. Was it Emily Larson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've got to get the book. I got to get her on. I haven't seen Joanne in years. The last time I saw her, she looked great.
Yeah, she's doing fine.
And your brother Johnny's up here kayaking as we speak.
That's right. What's left of him, he's out there dragging himself around in the bay right now.
Now, so who else? Tell us about the other players that are with you tonight at Carmody's Irish Pub.
Well, G.R. Svendal is playing bass tonight. G.R. and I go back about 30 years of playing together. He's played bass for me for a long time, but then he switched to piano, which was his original instrument when he grew up, and I didn't know that. And so one day he said, "Can I bring my piano to a gig?" And I said, "Yes," and it was like, wow, this guy is good.
Right.
And he got very good very quickly. So he'd been doing piano with me for the last several years, and then when Tom came into the picture, that means we had 2 chordal instruments, and he switched to bass, and it opened everything right up perfectly. Right. It was just, it's phenomenal. And, JR is great, absolutely great player. And then my percussionist, Andy Messerschmidt, is somebody. I live in the woods outside of Ely, and Andy is an Ely resident. And we hooked up there, and we've been playing together ever since. And he's a real great guy and a treat to play with.
Well, the little bit I heard last night, I'm coming down tonight to check out more of the show, but it really sounded great.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And now, Jeff, you've actually you're a bit of a world traveler. I knew when I first met you, you used to go down to Tortola.
Used to go to the British Virgin Islands, where I ended up, in 86 to 89, I stayed down there for 3 years and played 225 nights a year playing calypso and other island-type music, which was a strong influence of mine. And then just other things, round-the-world trips, a lot of time in Southeast Asia, about 8 years in the Caribbean together, Central America, all over, Eastern Europe, yeah.
So how many languages do you speak?
Half of one.
You are negative rap.
I'm negative. I'm rap negative.
You're rap negative in several languages. Me too. Hey, man, I get it. So tell us about some of the, I believe you hung out when you were in Tortola with the great the lead singer from the New York Dolls, who unfortunately we lost this year, David Johansen.
David Johansen, yeah. David met me down there. I was playing 4 nights a week in this place built in the sand on the beach. It was beautiful. And I met a lot of people, a lot of, let's say, famous or whatever folks came down there. The guys from Supertramp, Clapton, John Sebastian and I became good friends. And these people come to see me play every night.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really a treat, and we got to spend a lot of time together. The guys from Pink Floyd, and we just would hang out. And so, yeah, we became friends and spent a lot of time together, and then we hooked up in New York also.
Cool. Now, Tommy, when did you start playing yourself? Did you study? You studied with some guitarists down in the cities, correct?
I took some lessons from Dean McGraw.
Oh, great.
The great Dean McGraw.
Great Dean McGraw.
Tim Sparks. And then I played in a flamenco group with Scott Mateo Davies.
Yeah.
Who studied in Madrid. He studied at the University of Minnesota and then went to Madrid, studied there. And he was having flamenco Sunday morning lessons in his living room. And it was a great, great study. Aside from classical guitar, probably the best way to learn the guitar is flamenco and the nylon string guitar.
Right.
So very good. And then I played in a group with him. And we played at the Loring Bar downtown Minneapolis and some other venues there in early 2000s. And then I played in a Rai group, which is Algerian music, playing a nylon string guitar, and then kind of got back into steel string acoustic and then electric. Now I'm playing in another rock tribute band, Electric, and with Jeff. And
but who's it? Let's hear a little. Is this the band with Rosenfield, the other 73 East native?
That's the third group with Joe Barini and Steve Grindy from Duluth, and they're in a group called Split Rocks. And Tim Rosenfield and I have joined those two, and we're putting together like 3 and 4 part vocals. A lot of Crosby, Stills, Nash.
Now, are you still? I know you've been doing real estate for years. You helped me get my house together when I bought a house in Northeast, at the suggestion of the late great Steve Baker. Are you being able to play more, or are you still working every day?
Kind of winding that business down, and getting the music business off the ground as my retirement gig.
Oh, there you go.
So it's been really great.
Now, Jeff, you spent at least the last couple of years. You spent the winters in Minneapolis.
Last couple, yes.
Yeah. Now, when did you get? I can't remember when exactly. You lived in Esco for a while.
Lived in Esco. We came back from a round-the-world trip for a year, and we just didn't want to be in the city anymore. And we loved the boreal forests, and we spent an incredible amount of time canoeing, like 3 summers of 120 days canoe fishing every day. And so we said, well, let's go halfway and come to the Duluth area.
You are the fishing musician.
I pretty much am. That's right. And we looked for land all over, and we finally found a spot in Esco that we really liked. built a house, and stayed there for 5 years. And then I had some physical issues, back issues, and so we sold the house and took off and traveled around the world for 3 years, and then ran out of money. And we were living in the Caribbean, Culebra, Puerto Rico, for a couple of years before we came to Ely, and we just said summers are really hot and brutal down there and bug infested and just difficult. And we thought, let's get back to the woods. So we just picked Ely. I had lived in Grand Marais before, and we just picked Ely and went there and found some land, built a house, and now we live out in the woods and just spend our time talking to the critters.
Of course, there's no bugs in Ely, is there?
They're not carrying malaria or dengue fever.
Right? Yeah,
I've had those.
Yeah, the dengue fever. Yeah. Now, and you spent a little time at the Guitar Institute of Technology in Hollywood.
Yes, I graduated from there back in 89, 90, and right before I met you guys, actually, was what that was. And I was, playing all the time in the Caribbean, and the person I was playing with, the main person, band leader, I said, I want to go off to music school. And he said, why do you want to do that?
Yeah.
You don't need to. And I said, well, yeah, I do. I want to go know what I'm doing. So I did that, and a lot of things came out of that also. And so it's been a life of a lot of teaching and a lot of playing, incredible numbers of different groups around the world, and which has just been an incredible joy.
Have you? Do you do any teaching up in Ely?
I do. I've got several students up there, mostly older. A lot of people now are picking up the guitar after they retire.
Right.
So they know their stuff now, though. They're doing pretty well.
Right.
Yeah.
Chris, we've got some more of Jeff Cerniak's music queued up here we can listen to. We've got Jeff Cerniak and Tommy Griffith in the studio. They are performing tonight at Carmody's Irish Pub at 308 East Superior Street. And we're going to hear a little bit of Jeffrey's compositions and guitar playing right now. I believe it's a song called D Major.
Untitled.
Okay, we got to give it a second because there's an ad before it.
Okay, check, 1 and 2. Hey, speaking of Carmody's Irish Pub, Paul Metsa and the Tiltown Titanettes are there every Friday from 5:30 to 7:30. We're also playing tomorrow at the Park Point Art Fair at 1 o'clock. I've got two great vocalists with me, Macy Orr and Oliver Jane, a couple of 23-year-old Kansas gals that both studied voice, ended up in Duluth at different times, and we're just having a ball singing and playing together.
Still waiting for the ad.
All right.
SoundCloud.
So, Chris, where did you play? You played somewhere this week.
Oh, yeah. I was, last night I was over at the Caddy Shack. We had, I can't remember, I think it was Tina and the Mikes opened up for us. Just kind of a little acoustic thing, and then we came on, Red Blood.
And what kind of music is Red Blood?
We do 80s and 90s rock, and we have some originals that are just written by 14-year-olds that is very immature, but they're very funny, and we rock them up a little bit.
I like that.
Well, like I tell people when I won't tell you what I tell people. Actually, as a matter of fact, we will. All right, here we go. This is Jeff Cerniak, D Major, Untitled. by my guest, Jeff Cerniak, who's playing tonight with his buddy Tom Griffith, who's with me in the studio, with their drummer and bass player, Andy the drummer, and GR the bass player, at Carmody's Irish Pub. No cover. Starts at 8:30. Jeff, let's talk about some of your musical influences. Name them.
Well, first was the Beatles. The night they were on Ed Sullivan was the first time they were on Ed Sullivan. I said, I want to play guitar.
Right.
And so my parents, cellist and pianist, took me out the next day, enrolled me in classical guitar study, and I did that for a couple years and got pretty proficient at it, actually. And so that was the biggest first influence. Then I suppose the next one was the early Grateful Dead stuff from 1969 to 73 through that era.
And you saw them back then.
I saw them a lot back then. Yeah, I ran off with the circus in 1970, and that was my era. You know.
Well, they said that I believe actually Grateful Dead Records put out the show from the. What the heck was that place called? The Labor Temple.
Labor Temple, yes.
And you were at that
show?
show?
No, I didn't make the Labor Temple.
Okay.
I got in right after that. And so I did that. And then when I moved down to the Caribbean and I was playing so much Latin and Afro-Caribbean rhythms, I really got into Pat Metheny. Right. And still, I'd have to say that he's my favorite player. Just something about it that works for me. Mm-hmm. And it's also all instrumentals. I play a lot of instrumentals.
Yeah.
And so that's a big part of it. So those are my main influences, I'd say. Yeah.
And Pat is just, he's our age.
Yeah.
Maybe a year older.
Yeah.
How about Tommy Griffith? What music did you groove on growing up, and what influenced you to become a guitar player?
I remember in high school, I was a senior, and this sophomore, young, small guy comes up at the assembly in the auditorium with an ovation. He sits down by himself and starts playing classical gas. And his name was Phil Solem, and he went on to greater things.
He's in the Rembrandts.
Yeah,
with the Rembrandts and MTV videos, and now he's in Nashville. Great player.
Still making that mailbox money from the theme from Friends.
That's right. And the theme from Friends. Seeing him play was really triggered something. Just to see a solo guitarist play like that was really
to hear Solon solo.
Yes, correct.
Or was it Solem solo? We were
Solon.
talking about Solon earlier. I'm getting confused.
Solon is where I live. Solem is the great guitar player.
The town of
Solon Springs. All right, two more questions for my guests, Jeff Cerniak and Tom Griffith. Tom, Desert Island Disc. You got one choice. What are you bringing with you?
It's got to be some Bach, I think. The Goldberg Variations.
Okay.
I'm thinking.
Good. Yeah.
Kind of Blue is another one. And Pat Metheny.
Right. Nothing by Spinal Tap.
Well, tonight we're going to try to turn it up to 11.
Yeah, we'll turn it up to 11.
Jeffrey, what's your one desert disc?
Well, I'd want to be next to Tom so I could listen to his stuff too, but I suppose mine would have to be Live Dead, Grateful Dead, Dark Star in particular.
Okay.
And
do you remember the first time you heard Dark Star?
Yes, live. The first time I saw the Dead in Poynette, Wisconsin at a festival. And, I sat on the stage for the whole show and said, I dig this. I was 15 years old, and I said, this is what I want to do.
And you did.
And I did, and it was an honor to have these people contact me years later and all want to get together and play.
Absolutely. No, great honor, man.
Yeah.
Good for you. Well, I've enjoyed our friendship for 40-plus years and playing together, and we will do it again.
Yeah.
And so I highly suggest you want to hear some groovy music, get yourself in the right headspace, and groove on down to Carmody's Irish Pub tonight from 8:30. What about 8:30
to 11?
11 to 11. It goes to 11.
It goes to 11.
Right, now we're going to get that.
But why doesn't it go just to 10? Because it goes to 11.
E minor.
And that is Jeff Cerniak's Triptet with Andy GR and my in-studio guest, Tom Griffith. This has been great stuff. Good to see you, boys.
Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for having us.
Oh,
Thanks
man, it's a pleasure having you. So the nice thing about having your own radio show, you can pick your own guests and play your own music. In fact, we are going to play one of my songs that I recorded way back when called Virginia as I'm walking my friends out the door to the studio, and then I'll come back to tell you that we're just going down a 1 hour a week start next week. But we'll listen to this song, and I'll walk the boys out and come back and tell you about that.
Great tune.
They burned down all the trees on Fifth Avenue, shot out the fireball light. Nobody's on the beat going 2 by 2. Nighthawks out running in the night. Black dresses broke, you know, but the train tracks still go downtown. Plug nickel accordion band, kissing boys, kissing girls on the Hooter Road. Jack Rabbit kicked the can. Jack Rabbit kicked the can. Virginia, Virginia, don't even know my name. Virginia, Virginia, nothing changes but you don't feel the same. Nothing changes but you don't feel the same. Nothing changes but you don't feel the same. Tinfoil teardrops, rose for the meter man. Pool hall police play monthly peg. Horseshoe hopes on loan from the bleeding hand. 4 scores later, just like Lincoln said. Boris the Jippo used to tell me Russian fairy tales in a blackwood sky, no satellite. A fire priest keeps the photos right beneath the Chippendale. Sometime even he looks back in black and white. Sometime even he looks back in black and white. Virginia, Virginia, don't even know my name. Virginia, Virginia, well, nothing changes but you don't feel the same. Well, nothing changes but you don't feel the same. Well, nothing changes but you don't feel the same. Trumpet, Johnny's saxophone, Southside pinball mercifully. Under the pines, my sweetie said, let's pretend it's Perry.
Yeah, we're listening to my song, Virginia. That piano solo is the great Al Oikery, fellow Finn. I've been playing with him for years. Say, we will be going to just 1 hour a week starting next week. Stars Over the Prairie. No reason in particular other than it's summertime and there's lots of things I've got to get out there and do. But we're going to be going from 11 a.m. to noon. If you are a business or an organization that would like to get the word out about your business or organization, we've got really reasonable advertising rates. Just hit me up at paul@paulmetsa.com. I play every Friday with the Tiltown Titans from 5:30 to 7:30. Carmony's Irish Pub. Have a great week. Be kind.
The changes, but you don't feel the same.